This is what Spirit needs us to do right now as a human family. It's very evident that the world is having problems. It's very evident that there's a lot of disingenuousness around the activities that are happening. There's been a lot of concern about the disingenuous nature by which many of the factors of the pandemic were presented and orchestrated and implemented in the world. As soon as that is over, the world is on the brink of terror and terrifying possibility of war and nuclear war. Before the pandemic, the world was on the brink of nuclear war with North Korea, according to the media. Prior to that, we were invading the Middle East and claiming it was off the back of things which weren't true, and we know they weren't. And so here in the Western nations, we have to admit that we aren't necessarily looking like the good guys in certain countries in the world. And so Spirit needs the human family. Spirit needs us to do something today. And we need to make this very simple. What God needs from you immediately is for you to hear God's voice. I can't tell you what God wants you to do in this world, but I can tell you how to hear God's voice, and that voice will tell you what is needed. That voice will tell you what you can do to combat these low vibrations, to combat these problems. If you are paralyzed in fear looking at the media and there is nothing you can do to affect that, you have to stop looking at it. Real people are out there, they are suffering, they are struggling, and if you can help them, help them. If you can't, help the collective by asking God what is needed from you as an individual expression of human life to do so, to elevate that, to bring that love into the world, to start changing the narrative, to start sowing your seeds to alter the direction of things in the world around you. God's voice is heard. God's voice will come, often not audibly. And so one of the key factors I learned in my life is that when I'm persistently talking to myself as I used to and no longer do, then how on earth can God possibly guide me as a human being? How is that possible? I'm constantly talking to myself and what I'm going to do later and and regretting what I did earlier and feeling bad about what they might do to me tomorrow. And all the while, I'm rigid in a state of endless created problems from the voice inside my head. And when you have a problem, your brain freezes. We know this. Your brain freezes. It's only when you relax do you solve the problem. And so working out how to listen is the first step. And the best way to listen for God's voice is to stop analyzing the world and start observing the world. Because when you observe the world, you open up to the communication that is not merely just verbal. It's energetic. It's not merely just coming from the voice or the audible or the human language. It's coming from the language of nature by which God can come through. And it is an energetic language. The voice of God in my life is coming through in synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. It's coming through in dreams. I have deeply impactful dreams in my life, and so much so that the Children's Village, which cares for hundreds of children in crisis as of today, was born off a dream. So much so a few years ago I was the first person in this world to know that my uncle had cancer because I dreamed it. And so these are important tools, but only when you settle down, only when you stop the chatter, only when you make space for the light of God and the energy of nature to come to you and speak its language. And by that I mean you don't look at the false light. Why are we all staring at the phone, staring at the computer, staring at Netflix? The bombardment of endless entertainment, the bombardment of endless opportunities for young men men and women to get lost in naughty pictures and videos on the internet? Why is it all there? Why is it all so corrosive to the progression of humanity if it is there for our benefit? That light is coming to you, and that light is the light of the enemy. That light is going to crush you and push you down into your lower vibration, into the state of fear, into the state of clawing at the world to try and find some sort of pleasure, because sitting still feels so uncomfortable for you, because from childhood you've been bombarded with this fear narrative, with this technology, with this education system that tells you not to be here and in God's energy and God's voice for your life. It tells you not to be there. If you are always looking at the light that man has made, how on earth can the voice of God come through? How can the light of God come through and speak to you energetically? It can't. You must come away from these screens until you have a clear direction for your life from God. You must come away. You will not find it in the screen. You will not find it searching. You can search and search and search, but you will always be left with the doubt of, what am I supposed to do? And you have no idea what it is you might be supposed to do. I had no idea. I was a working class man. I was struggling with drugs. I was struggling with all the same problems everybody struggles with. I was battling with that. And I started to surrender all of this inner chatter, this inner character, this person that my brain had constructed inside me. And I handed over the brain, the heart and the body, and I said, I have messed this up. Let the energy that I feel here and now somehow guide this and let me know what to do. And a great deal of beauty has been born off the back of that, and that's why I'm confident to say that what Spirit needs from the human family right now is for you to know God's voice and guidance and want and desire for your life. God's voice knows where to take you. We are undertaking the construction of what may be Africa's largest off-the-grid village when it is completed. This is phenomenal. 8 years ago I would have said that's impossible. I've already built one. Not the person, not John, but the human being talking to you as a vessel that emptied itself of all that chatter, all those memories, traumas, lack of forgiveness, etc. And just here and now just said, here. Can you use this body as a tool? And I will not interfere with opinion and judgment and memory. Can you do that? And as I sat there in stillness, in silence, the voice came. And the voice came in synchronicity, sometimes audibly, sometimes from other human beings. But it was very clear. It was very clear when it was God's voice. And it's very clear today, the problem that we are facing in our human family is we are not listening to God's voice individually. We are listening to other people. We are listening to the media. We are listening to our own voice. And our own voice is so bogged down and programmed by the dopamine-soaked and addicted body that we have that it cannot at all find any space and comfort to rest into that stillness where the energy of the spontaneous nowness, where God's voice is found, where the energy and the will of unconditioned love can enter your body and whisper to your cells, this is your calling for your life, this is your direction. And it's not heard. And it's not heard because the body is programmed to grab the next source of entertainment, to grab the next item of junk food, to grab whatever else it's grabbing at. Because when it sits still, it's so hormonally programmed into these things that there is no comfort for the human vehicle. On top of that, the mind, the ego within the person, that the one who knit you together in your mother's womb, who grew you from child to man, the person that you took hold of the energy of and built and constructed inside you, this person is constantly talking and chattering and telling you, let's look at the screen, let's look here, let's go there. And never does it look where it's supposed to look. Look inside you. And when you look inside you, you will find God's voice. And when you find God's voice, and we all find it, we will know the trees we are supposed to be planting, that we may never sit under the shade of, but we must plant. For if we do not start now to change our human story towards one of more benevolence and love, then what on earth do we expect we are going to leave for our children? And how do we expect this is going to end? There are negative forces playing this out. And the only way we lack the wisdom, we lack the direction, unless we get that certain, sturdy foundation of God's call in our individual life to say, here, this is where you are needed. And when you know that call, everything else, all the chatter of the world goes away, because you know you can't influence that. And if you can influence it, the voice will come and tell you. But if you can't, forget it. You focus on your goal. And you know that this is what you're supposed to focus on, because the Lord himself has implanted it in you and gives you the vision. And once it happens, there is no denying the clarity and certainty that this is my path and my duty as a human expression of life. In the same way these trees know exactly what they are doing, you will know exactly what you are supposed to be doing, and there will be no seeking, searching and anxiety. It will be a roaring fuel of unconditioned love and peace and clear creation on behalf of that foundation, on behalf of the same love that is spoken about by Jesus Christ. That love will be delivered into you as a message to manifest in this world. Spirit needs humanity to get up off its knees and know its direction. And the only place it's going to know it is in the silence of mind, that the energy of God's voice can individually plant the visions in each individual to start building the world that deep down we all want to see. We've got to wake up. It's time. God's waiting. And it's a better life. It's a better life than the Netflix and the entertainment and the anxiety and the searching. It's a better life. I love you all.